Good morning. Welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura. I am Pastor Eric Halseth, minister at UUCV. I use he, they pronouns, and I am pleased to join you on this fine morning. Welcome to everyone here in the sanctuary, and welcome to all of you on Zoom, wherever you may be in the world. No matter how you got yourself to this place of sanctuary, whether driving, cycling, wheeling, Zooming, stepping with care, or with 3 taps of your heels, I am glad you have joined us. This is a community made of people with many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders, and all are welcome here. A land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Indigenous communities to secure meaningful partnership and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural stewardship, cultural resources and homelands. Our institutions were founded upon exclusions and erasures of Indigenous people. We honor and are grateful for the land we occupy and recognize the ongoing damage of settler colonialism. Specifically, we acknowledge the land on which we gather in this sanctuary, known today as Ventura, is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Chumash Ventureño people, who have stewarded this land for thousands of years. We honor their ancestors, elders, and descendants as they continue their deep spiritual and cultural connections to these lands and waters. And now for today's announcements. We are holding our second New to UU class after services today. Get a bagel and coffee, and then join us in the West Alcove. There's a big sign there, over there by the couches at 11:30 a.m. to learn more about the UU faith and UUCV specifically. Also, I'd like to remind you that the auction is still going, so keep bidding on all the great items. We are already over $24,500. That is apparently a really good number. So I've been told from previous years, so it's going great. Bidding ends next Sunday at 8 p.m., so keep checking to make sure that you don't get outbid on your favorite items. Lastly, voting will be happening today during coffee hour to select the recipients of our collection. Folks will be stationed at the doors to Berg Hall, and you can drop off your ballots at the connecting table in Berg Hall during coffee hour. And let me remind you to refer to the announcements in the weekly email message, UUCV this week, for all of the current announcements. Finally, for those who may be new to the church this week, the section of seats over here is to your right, near the open windows, is being maintained as an area for those of us who are more comfortable wearing masks during worship. Now, enter with me this sacred space. Bring with you what is yours: a burdened heart, a joyous song, a wearied spirit, a seeking mind. Bring the gift of yourself to this altar. It is an honorable gift. Let us enter sacred space.
Good morning. I am Worship Associate Maureen Daly. We invite those who are Zooming or streaming into this service to light a chalice or candle at home as Pastor Eric lights the chalice of our free faith here in the sanctuary. Our call to worship this morning comes from Richard S. Gilbert and is called The Poignancy of Living in These Days. I inhale and exhale in a regular rhythm, an act so common it never occurs to me to pay attention. And when I do, I am overwhelmed with the wonder of it all. I eat my food as I have done for 1,000 days, a practice so frequent I hardly notice the miraculous million events that happen in my body, and when I do, I am taken with their singular beauty. I greet my loved ones as I have greeted them for years, a habit that I pass off casually until I realize the deep poignancy of greetings and farewells. How precious they are, how they touch deeper feeling chords each time. Perhaps it is middle age or old age, or perhaps sentiment grows in me, or perhaps I am awakening to life in ways transcending my usual semi-awake state of being. The poignancy of living in these days penetrates me, burrows deep into psyche or soul or spirit, I know not what. I only know that I feel these things more deeply with the passing years, that the common things of life become uncommon, that the ordinary becomes extraordinary, that the habitual becomes sacred. Bittersweet is the poignancy of living in these days. I awaken myself and bow down in deep gratitude. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning, y'all. I'm Zach Spencer, and I invite you all to rise in body or in spirit as you are able, and with a giant smile on your faces, we get to sing number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Hello, folks. I'm Celia Ortenberg, and I'm standing in this morning for Lily Rappaport, who is our Director of Family Ministry here. She is out today. I hope she's having a wonderful time. And so I invite all of the young people or young at heart to come forward. And as they come through the audience, if you have some non-perishable food or something for the basket that is brought to the Ride Alliance 805 to support our immigrant neighbors, our young people will collect them and bring them forward. And from this we live, from you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. He's getting bigger here all the time. It's so much fun to see him grow. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you guys here today. Have you ever felt joy when someone just smiled at you? Or found a little extra courage when a friend stood beside you when you needed a friend? That feeling, that deep sense of connection is called Ubuntu. You guys want to try to say that? Ubuntu. Ubuntu. I like that word. It's a word from the African language, and it means I am because you are. Let's say that. I am because you are. It reminds us that we're not alone. We are part of something bigger. And when we care for each other, we help everyone grow stronger. Let's carry that spirit with us as we begin today's story. I Am You, about Ubuntu. When I look into your eyes, I see myself. I am you. When I look into your eyes, I see your heart. I embrace you. When I look into your eyes, I see your beauty. I love you. And because I love you, I love myself too. And when I smile as our eyes meet, when I hug you and say hello, when I share what little I have with you, and when I walk home with you after school, I love you and I love myself too. When I listen as you tell me your stories, when I dance as I see you dance, when I laugh as I hear you laugh, when I hold your hands as you cry, I love you and I love myself too. Are they laughing over there? They are. They're all laughing together. Isn't it good to laugh with other people? It is. We may look different, you and I, and we may sound different. And probably, yes, they have people up there saying things in different languages. One of them is Onisin, that's Dutch, or Rimonho, which is Sesotho. Sumeni, which is Zulu, or We Are One, which is English. We all look different, we all sound different, we all act different, and we eat different food, and we live in different places, but our hearts all beat the same. Have you ever felt your heart? Just put your hand over your chest and you can feel your heart beating in there. Yeah, everybody's heart beats like that. We all do, all people.
When I run, my heart beats.
Yeah, when you run, your heart beats even faster. You can really feel it then. And that happens to everybody, too. It's amazing. To hurt you is to hurt myself. And to tease you is to tease myself. To ignore you is to ignore myself, because I am you. To take care of you is to care for myself. And to be gentle with you is to be gentle with myself. And to be kind to you is to be kind to yourself. I am you, and you are me. I am because we are one. And it's so good to have us all together on one carpet here. And I invite everybody now to stand, and if you haven't done this before, face the center, raise your hands up as the children go through the tunnel of love.
We have all drank from wells we did not dig, and we have all eaten food we did not grow. And each Sunday, this congregation gives away our collection to an organization in the larger community or to funds that help people in our own church. Those at home have two ways to give: through the link posted in the chat or by texting 844-901-1779 from your phone. And of course, people here in the sanctuary can do the same thing. Folks who are present here can, like I just said, use the text to give, or you can write a check or give cash in the box at the back of the church. Our offering today goes to Buddy Nation, an organization that provides funding to assist our unhoused and low-income neighbors with their pets' medical needs. We have a very special story this morning about an adorable dog named Louie. Louie has a massive growth on his rear leg that is affecting his ability to walk comfortably. His mom, Jeannie, who has been attending services here at UUCV, often uses a stroller for him. Buddy Nation will be assisting with the funds that are required to have the massive growth removed. You can meet Louie and his mom, Jeannie, in Berg Hall after the service. Thank you for giving generously, as you always do. We are so grateful for the generosity of this congregation. It is such an important part of the beautiful, connected tapestry of love that we weave together.
Now is the time in the service when we hold up the great joys and sorrows that grace our lives. We place stones in water for both the celebrations and sorrows in our hearts, making ripples that are felt throughout our community. You can submit a joy or sorrow for sharing via a link on the website, uuventura.org, or a link in our Thursday email bulletin, UUCV This Week. Those received by 8 o'clock on Saturday night will be shared that Sunday. I invite you now to speak into the gathered community or write into the Zoom chat the names of those you wish to celebrate or memorialize, or those in need of the loving embrace of this beloved community. Pastor Eric will now place one final stone in the water for all the joys and sorrows yet unspoken in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. May we be truly grateful for all that is our life.
I invite you all to remain seated as we sing our meditation hymn, number 1003, Where Do We Come From? Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do
Our reading this morning, Someone Should Start Laughing by Hafiz. I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, how are you? I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, what is God? If you think that the truth can be known from words, if you think that the sun and the ocean can pass through that tiny opening called the mouth, oh, someone should start laughing. Someone should start wildly laughing. Now.
I invite you now into a time of meditation. The poem we just heard speaks to us of questions impossible to truly answer, of a world full of beauty and wonder that is impossible to truly describe, and that laughter is sometimes the answer in these difficult times. Let us all take a moment of silence to quiet ourselves and just be. And if you laugh, so be it. Place your feet upon the floor, close your eyes if you wish, and breathe in and out, noticing your breath both as it comes in and it goes out. Relax in this moment and just breathe. Good morning again. As the title of today's service says, who am I? I am your new minister, Pastor Eric Alseth. I am beyond excited to join you today at this moment in time, standing before you at this pulpit in the culmination of nearly a decade and a half of work. It has been at times a painful journey, but also one of joy. There have been sorrows and tragedy along the way, but also triumphs and moments of ecstatic wonder. And this is, of course, just the way life is, but with the added crucible of attending seminary, and a particularly progressive seminary at that. Well, it would be great if I could regale you all with a detailed retelling of my life history, and as I joked at the auction, ministers love to talk. This is no place for a 10-hour Ken Burns style biographical interpretation of my life. And I'm sure you will learn over time many things about me as I weave stories from my past into the stories I tell on Sunday morning, and when we connect in groups and individually. That being said, and so the sermon title isn't a complete lie, I think I should tell you a little bit about myself. I've spent far more than half my time on this earth living on the Gold Coast. Well, I was born in the Boston area, Quincy to be specific. I only spent the first 6.5 years of my life living in the village of Newton Highlands. In that time, I played at Walden Pond. I made way for ducklings at Boston Commons. I camped in the White Mountains of New Hampshire and learned to ice skate at Crystal Lake just a few blocks from home. The Northeast was always a place I idealized while growing up, thinking myself a Bostonian through and through. But it's not true. And if you ask, I will spin you a tale about my various families and their actual origin stories. In Santa Barbara, where we moved to from Boston because of my dad's connections to the defense industry through his time at MIT and Lincoln Laboratories in Massachusetts, I had an idyllic life as a child. Because it was a different time than it is now, and the world was a different place, I explored everywhere between Carpinteria and Gaviota on a bicycle, and later in my first car, a 1974 Fiat 128 hand-me-down. I'm lucky to be alive after driving that car. I journeyed with my friends to the beaches and mountains, hiking, fishing, surfing, being outdoors nearly every day of the year. After attending college at UCSB, where I studied in the College of Creative Studies and received a BA in what is now called Literature and Writing, I moved to Tucson for a year to get to know my birth family. I was adopted, and then moved back to the Gold Coast, landing in Ventura for several years, and then Thousand Oaks. I also attended Cal Lutheran during that time and received an MBA. But then I moved away from Southern California for a little more than a decade, spending almost 7 years in Ohio while running research and testing for Victoria's Secret catalog. And I didn't know it was that funny, but, and then working for eBay and the Gallo Winery and Disney Interactive in Northern California. And that brings us full circle as I moved back to Thousand Oaks around the same time I started the theological and spiritual journey in 2012 that brings me here standing before you today at this pulpit. And you just got a rough biographical narrative of my life up until I received my calling to ministry via about 360 words. But really, when we think about the title of today's service, who am I? Isn't this a question that we ask each of ourselves when we reach those existential moments in our lives? Who am I? If I'm honest, the answers for me, for each of us, change depending on the day. I am a tangle of memories and hopes. I am a body that aches and heals. I am a story that is still being written. I am what I choose, and I am what chooses me. Responsibilities, relationships, both my gifts and my growing edges. Wounds that have become scars. I'm my scars as they shrink and they heal over time, and each of them is a lesson that I carry with me. I am the breath I take before speaking, the apology I owe, the courage I practice. As we know, love is at the center of all that we do. And as one of my favorite songs in the Teal hymnal goes, I breathe in peace and I breathe out love. Love is a summons to treat the raw material of our lives as sacred, to notice our edges, to grow them with care, and to remember that our identity is not a label we stick on once, but a living covenant we keep with ourselves. Our identity constantly changing and evolving as we change and evolve throughout our lives. And who are we together? We are the space that contains us in community. Continuous ebbs and flows of life as we interact. We're the promises that we make, and we're the promises that we sometimes break when real life shows up. To paraphrase Confucius, we are a choir of mismatched voices, learning to listen for harmony rather than sameness. We're a workshop for the soul where doubt and hope both have seats at the table. We're the ones who agree to hold one another to our best intentions, to show up, to speak truth with love, to repair when we harm, and to widen the circle when we notice it has narrowed. Who am I becomes what? It becomes, who are we? Who are we precisely at the point where my autonomy meets your flourishing wonderfulness? We are, in the end, the habits that we practice in community, how we greet newcomers, how we teach our children wonder and courage, how we share our resources, how we risk forgiveness, how we return after conflict. If I am a story still being written, then we are a library, shelves full of the chapters of our lives, lending out courage, collecting wisdom from every person who walks through the doors. Today's story that was read earlier, all about Ubuntu, points us toward how this concept, widely held throughout many of the different cultures throughout Southern Africa, can help us to be the best community we can be. Indeed, the definition in the story firmly aligns the concept of Ubuntu with our values. The book we read this morning describes it as, I am because we are. 5 simple words, also said as, I am because you are. I had that backwards. It's really, I am because you are. And then we can widen that to I am because we are. Maybe that's a difference without a distinction, though. But it still brings us back full circle to community being a source of the self. I didn't write this sermon because this community doesn't live into the spirit of Ubuntu. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I say this community lives into Ubuntu every day of every week, of every month, of every year. And when we fail each other, we are brought back into community with grace and love. Archbishop Desmond Tutu defined Ubuntu through the following words. A person with Ubuntu is open and available to others, affirming of others, does not feel threatened that others are able and good, for that person has a proper self-assurance that comes from knowing that they belong in a greater whole and are diminished when others are humiliated or diminished, when others are tortured or oppressed. Dharma teacher Ralph Steele talks of Ubuntu as looking deeply into the other until I see myself. This way of relating to others is often practiced in covenant groups or chalice circles in our spaces, where active listening can create a deeply empathetic understanding of the other, whether that person is a stranger or someone well known to us. Michael Onyebuchi, a scholar who's worked all over the world, but CSU Fresno is his academic home, says this of Ubuntu from his book, Intellectual History in Contemporary South Africa. The saying, a person is a person through people, strikes an affirmation of one's humanity through recognition of an other, in that person's uniqueness and difference. It is a demand for a creative intersubjective formation in which the other becomes a mirror, but only a mirror for my subjectivity. This idealism to us suggests that humanity is not embedded in my person solely as an individual. My humanity is co-substantively bestowed upon the other and me. Humanity is a quality we owe to each other. We create each other and need to sustain this otherness creation. And if we belong to each other, we participate in our creations. We are because you are. And since you are, definitely I am. The I am, though, is not a rigid subject, but a dynamic self-constitution dependent on this otherness creation of relation and distance. Given that we're UUs, we often love these sort of academic dissertations on subjects, and we should dive in. Professor Easy's proposal that we are individuals precisely because we are part of larger communities is interesting because, as is often said in UU spaces, we are a group of like-minded people, or we have shared values. And certainly, from a demographics perspective, UUs are a fairly homogeneous bunch. But it is within this shared community that our individualness stands out. To go back to the story earlier in the service, I am who I am because you are who you are. But it also raises another thing. When we look at otherness, people, strangers who may not typically be part of our communities, whether in this church or in the other parts of our lives, how do we apply this concept of Ubuntu? I am because you are. But what if the you is someone who is definitely not part of this community? Someone whose values are antithetical to your own, either individually or communally. Someone who we each might say does not have a place in our lives or our communities. It's hardly a trait that leads to radical welcoming, radical inclusion, or beloved community. hardly how Ubuntu theoretically calls us into relationship with others. But it's not easy, is it? And it's certainly not easy in today's world. Over at the corner of Ralston and Victoria, there's been road work for the last week. I think they're putting in fiber optic cable or gas lines or something like that. As a result, I have not been able to turn left on Ralston when coming into the office. I can go up a half a block and circle back through the KinderCare parking lot, along with many, many other people who have the same idea. Or I can turn left at the frontage road, as I have been doing for the last few days, and then I turn right at the bottling plant, a ways past Golf and Stuff, and then I turn right on Ralston, and down the road where every weekday I drive past the protesters at Planned Parenthood. How do I live into Ubuntu at that moment? I so want to throw on a stole and go stand across the street with a sign supporting women's reproductive rights. And I probably will at some point, because I'm tired of driving past them. And I so want to believe that with empathetic listening, I could understand a little bit more about why they think what they do, and that they would be able to do the same with me. And I am not so naive to think that the empathy would be a very meaningful activity, either with the protesters down the street or with our family's friends that have voted for or support the far-right agenda, or any of the other divisive issues that have created an us versus them mentality in this country. I am because you are. I am hoping that this idea of Ubuntu, such a noble goal, has not become something else. Instead of a positive reflection that I see when I deeply listen to others within this community or other places where I have more in common than not, instead, am I who I am because of the negative reflection I see when I look at those I disagree with? And I said, hoping, intentionally, because I have hope. I hope that the arc of the moral universe bends back toward justice, toward goodness, toward the love inherent in our UU values. Next week, we're going to talk about another interpretation of community from the Central Philippines called Bayanihan. And I'm going to give you a little bit of homework. There's no writing involved, and no reading, although you could if you were so inclined, and certainly no tests, essay, multiple choice, or otherwise. Instead, I want to ask you to think about what community means to you. I want you to ponder the idea that we are a reflection of our community, and our community is a reflection of us. Maybe when you're traveling to work, it'll be in the back of your mind, or when you take a walk, or when you wake up in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep. What does community mean to you? I am because you are. I am because we are. Indeed. Blessed be Shamaleh, and Amen.
Well, I invite you all to rise in body and spirit again as we sing This Little Light of Mine.
Please join me in reading the words on the screen as we prepare to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. Those we carry into our lives until we are together again.
All of you here in the sanctuary today are invited after the service for coffee, tea, bagels, and conversation in our community room, Berg Hall. Also, all visitors and guests are enthusiastically invited to stop by the connecting table right through these double doors for a chat, which will also be where you drop off your ballots for the collection. Nearby is our welcome table, where you will find information about our church and our faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism. As you go out into the world today, remember, you have homework. Think about community, think about who we are, and think about who you are. Amen.